Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to the channel where today I am going to do a mostly spoiler-free review of the Memory, Sorrow and Thorn series by American author Tad Williams. Now, this series was published beginning in 1988 with The Dragonbone Chair, 1990 with Stone of Farewell, and 1993 with To Green Angel Tower, which is probably one of the longest books ever written in fantasy, if not in the world, clocking at over 500,000 words and had to be split into two books for publication in paperback. Now, I've already done reviews of the first two books of the series in the channel, so I'll leave a link in the description below in case you want to check them. But basically, the story starts with the death of King John Prester and then his two sons, Elias and Joshua, who sort of vie for the throne, but not really, because Elias, aided by the evil priest pirates, he sort of becomes the king, locks his brother away, but anyway, he manages to escape, and the two brothers fight for the throne. Grosso modo, that's the plot. Now I don't want to get into any specifics or any details. Now, the reason I mention the publication dates of the series, I think it's quite important in order to understand at the time that it was published and the effects that it had, or the reasons for my review here. So, late 80s was kind of the heyday of the super epic fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, Dragonlance, Dark Elf series, all that sort of stuff. But it was a transitional period where the very Lord of the Rings heavily influenced series, so like the Shannara series by Terry Brooks, were sort of coming to an end, and we were getting a shift in fantasy. Wheel of Time started getting published in 1990, so kind of halfway through this series. Robin Hobb with her Realm of the Elderlings came in 1995, so only 2 years after this finished. And, prior to this, maybe you also had the Rift War saga by Raymond E. Feist and maybe David Eddings with the Belgariad, which were very Lord of the Rings influenced, very sort of heavily classic tropey fantasy series. And here we've got kind of a similar thing. You've got the Chosen One, you've got a Dark Lord and the fight between good and evil, and still a fairly highly fantastical world with trolls, with these sea creatures called the Niskis, and these kind of insectoid creatures, the Gans, and there is these sort of elven type creatures that come at play at the end, and magical places, and all that sort of stuff, which was sort of lost in modern fantasy. So there's nothing wrong with this series. Maybe the ending, we are led into this super epic confrontation at the end, and it doesn't quite deliver that. It resolves in a way I wasn't expecting. But there are no plot holes here. There is nothing wrong at all with the series that I can pick out. Maybe there's a couple of revelations at the end of the series, and one of them you can see coming from a mile from the first page of the series, and the other one there's not enough clues planted so you can figure it out. But nothing to pick. I was pleased that a couple of what felt like side quests in the second book sort of came full circle. All of a sudden, we were given a reason why these things happened. And for those of you that have read the book, I'm mentioning the Niskis and the Gans thing. And if you haven't read it, I'm not spoiling anything, but we have a reason why these things happen, but they don't get developed any further. So it felt a bit of a letdown. So back to my original point is that Memory, Sorrow and Thorn is a transitional series between the classic high epic fantasy stuff of the 70s, early 80s to the more modern, more grounded, more morally grey characters, less fantastical worlds that we are more used to today. You name it, Abercrombie, Game of Thrones, all that sort of stuff. And you can see here sort of those embryonic aspects that George R.R. Martin will exploit and take to the next level in Game of Thrones. And Martin himself has cited this series as an influence, and you can see the sort of attempts at multiple POV chapters that sort of improve throughout the books. There are slightly darker themes, particularly the last books or the second half of To Green Angel Tower. Definitely goes green, definitely goes dark, but it also gives you grounded reasons why the evil characters or the antagonists behave in the way they do. They're not just evil for the sake of being evil. The problem is that because it's a transitional series, it doesn't fit comfortably into either classic fantasy or modern fantasy. So whatever you find here that you like has probably been done better before or after. And as usual, I think it's too long. It's too long for the story that it tells. And it has sort of burned me out from long series high fantasy. I think I'm going to spend the rest of the year reading maximum 400-page books. I think I need to clear my mind of all this stuff before tackling other series in the future. So, like I said, and maybe the problem is that I've read these now at my almost tender age of almost 45. Maybe if I had read these when they came out, or maybe, early in my 20s or something like that, I would feel differently. But as I stand now, largely indifferent. I understand the place that it has in time in the evolution of fantasy, but to me, it hasn't really added anything new or has opened up any new horizons. I know that Williams has got further books in his Austen art world that he's built here, and I've got no interest in delving deeper at all. I've read it, they're going to be there, possibly very low readability value for me. A lot of the supporting cast of characters is underdeveloped. There's a few that I liked and I wanted to like more, but they really were not given space on the page. And then when things happened to them, I didn't feel the emotional investment to connect with them, such as Duke Isgrim-Nur. There are some cute supporting characters. It's an interesting world, very classical, very heavily medieval European influence, Viking, medieval Britain sort of thing, which is why I say it doesn't really break any new ground. It all feels very familiar, possibly some Christian themes in there as well. That, like I said, you're reading this and it's all feeling familiar, and you're plowing through the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. Every book is 800 pages long, to not really get much at the end. But anyway, these are my thoughts and my opinions, and what do I know? I'm just a reader, but let me know in the comments below if you agree with me and whether this series deserves more attention, or it's got the attention that it rightly deserves for what it tried to do that helped other people move fantasy forward in a different direction. Anyway, so that's all I've got for today. As usual, take lots and lots of care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.